Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join real estate entrepreneur and mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
Guys, welcome back to Construct Your Life. This is Austin Linney here. I might use his name, I might not. We'll just call him the six-figure course creator, Mr. Michael Gonzalez. How are you doing, sir?
Good, brother. How are you, man? It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's great to be here, man. You know, in true Austin Linney fashion, we've shared a DM or two, but don't know much about you. I just know that you seem to be helping all my friends, create, I'll just use it very clearly, leverage in their business, right? Leverage in their time and their freedom. But your story, man, where did you start for the audience?
Yeah, I mean, FreedomBuilderz is the company that was born out of doing just what you said. It's helping people mainly in the coaching space. And it was born during the pandemic. I had been an online fitness coach years before the pandemic even happened. And then when the pandemic started, I had a lot of coaches that were friends of mine that were mainly in brick and mortar come to me and say, hey man, they're closing everything down. I need to transition online on the fly and I don't know how to do it. Can you help me? And I said, of course. And I started helping them for free. I wasn't even charging anything. And then as more and more came into my space, I realized, I wonder if I can create a business model around this. So I did. And we've been helping people ever since, and we're approaching 60 online businesses built out, either in process now or completely built out now. And our goal is to hit 100 before the end of the year.
I love that. And what would you say, right? Because, what I've noticed, and maybe it's just my friends, I think sometimes I've noticed a lot of the fitness guys, they get started in the fitness, but they love the mindset. And they're kind of like, I feel like a lot of them are like transitioning outside of just fitness, right? When it's mindset, it's other things like that. Have you seen that trend as well too, where they're saying, I don't want to be pigeonholed as just this guy, but, I lost 80 pounds myself when I got sober. And I think a lot of it was more mental than it was like me working out the right way. You switch a couple of things and shift. Have you seen that as well?
Totally. So fitness is the most powerful vehicle for change. Because once you change something tangible, then you get curious about what you can change in the intangible. So as you see your body transform, you transition into what would the mental body look like to change, or the energetic or the spiritual or the emotional body. What would that look like to change? Now, the trouble that most of the coaches that I see get into is that they try to sell the intangible when most people are still at a level of awareness where they want to change the tangible. So they're just not familiar with the opportunity to change or shift their mind. Now, you and I both know it's mindset because we have a higher level of awareness. Mm-hmm. But if you try and pitch that as your marketing message, which I did for many, many years, it goes over people's heads, right? Because most people, they just want to change their body so that they can be healthier, or they can have more intimacy in their life, or they can be more productive at work, aka, more energy.
This is the most important conversation, and it plays on 11 different layers, and I'll explain why. Let's say you're posting a real estate deal. Okay, because I do this all the time. I'm a consultant for a lot of things. People come to me and go, you know what, dude? I'm going to do the tiny houses. We're going to have tree houses. We're going to have teepees. We're going to do a holistic retreat. We're going to do all these things. And I go, yeah. And guess what? It's not going to get financed. And they're like, why? And I'm like, because lenders don't have an imagination. Mm. And so when I truly leveled up my business is when I sold what you could see, and then I gave you what you actually needed after you were already in my ecosystem.
You got it, man. Bring them in with what they want and then give them what they need, right?
And why would somebody not present that? It's ego. I got the thing. I got the magic bullet. This is the thing. And I said it. We had a podcast earlier with Chase and Conrad, my business partners. People make it complicated so they have a way out. So they have an excuse of why it didn't work. When I would imagine when you get your clients and you lay them through the process, it's probably more simple, tangible things. I would imagine the same as me. When I look at them, we probably cut out 70% of what they're doing.
Yeah, simplicity is king. It is the key to creating success. Because if you can't explain something simply, you probably don't know it as well as you think you do. And also when you complicate things, and this is something that, we advise on when we're first talking to people when they want to build out an online course. It's like, hey, listen, I know you want to shove all of your knowledge into this course right now, but remember, less is more. And actually, you're doing more damage to the success of your course when you try and throw everything that you know in there versus streamlining it and simplifying it. Because when you throw everything in there and overcomplicate it, you overwhelm the client. And an overwhelmed client quits the process. They don't get the result that you're promising. And now that's a negative, look on your course.
So Sam Walton, the owner of Walmart, in his office, he has a cardboard cutout of a lady named Sally. And he has many people that are Harvard grads, MBAs. They'll walk in, they'll pitch Sam an idea. He'll look them dead in the face and he'll say, Sally doesn't understand. And they're like, what do you mean, Sally? Who's Sally? And they're like, it's our client. If you can't sell it to Sally, it's not going to get in my store.
Yep.
And ultimately, there's a guy out there. His name is Michael Burt. He's a very, very successful coach, former basketball player. And I studied him. And I don't agree with everything he says, and he has different ways. But the thing that he sells better than anybody is he can package an idea better than I've ever seen. And when you can package an idea and you can study words and you can understand what they mean to people and they can easily consume it. My favorite book, Naval Araki, Naval, he's an angel investor. He's invested in like 200 companies, and they basically took a book and they distilled all of his podcast episodes and all of his like talkings and everything. And you read it. It's the most easily consumed as a conversation. And like you're just like tearing through it. And I took so much away from that book because it wasn't trying to get a point. It was just telling the point. And I think a lot of people need to look at their marketing and branding that way and understanding that you have to really touch the core of somebody to get them to spend the money or get them to even invest in what they're doing. And what you're describing earlier is that if you give them everything that you need, then what's next? Like if you shove everything in the course and there's not round two or there's not, longevity, right? We track to see how long our clients stay with us, not how short they are with us.
Yeah, it's going to affect the average lifetime value of the customer for sure if you shove everything into one course. But I think even more detrimental than that is that you take them through a negative experience. And experience is everything when it comes to online courses. Remember, we want to take them from a customer or a client and we want to turn them into a fan. And the way to do that is to give them an experience that they're fanatical about. And the reason we want fans is because fans tell other people about your course. Fans, again, become fanatical. They buy into your mission. They buy into your values. Remember, people don't buy your product. They buy the heartbeat of the business, which is you, right? They don't buy the program, they buy the coach, they buy your knowledge, not the knowledge, right? So when you're taking people through that process and you're creating that experience for them, then that word of mouth, which is the best marketing, is amplified and you can grow your business better with bigger margins.
And this is why I'm finally at peace with creating what we're launching in a couple of days, because I was like, well, what's the point, right? Like everybody has their thing out there. And like my client was like, yeah, but I don't want to hear from them. I want to hear from you.
You got it.
And I was like, okay, that makes sense. Okay, my spin, my thing, and back in the day, when I first started the podcast, I said to myself, is like, what is the advice that my 17-year-old self needs more than anything? And so I just talked to him and everybody's like, who are you talking to? And I'm like, I'm talking to my former self, because if I felt this way, then you probably felt that way. And so when we look at stuff like that, and one of the bigger issues I've had as I love to study people that are from, I feel like some of the big guys, I feel like they don't resonate with where they once were before. And I feel like the disconnect from the audience, like I always remember how it felt to be strung out on meth. Like I always make a promise to myself that I'll never distance myself enough from it being able to internalize that feeling. So when I go reach somebody in that moment, I want them to know that I know exactly where they're sitting at that moment.
Yeah. That's the power in messaging, and obviously transitions into sales. If you can step into the story that is playing in your client's head, that is causing them a massive amount of pain, and you can express it like you know it intimately, sometimes even better than they can even communicate it, then they will automatically believe that you have the best solution possible and will buy your product because they know that you understand them, you resonate with them, and you get them. And that's what people want. They want people that understand them, that get them. And that's where the story comes in. Remember, authority plus story plus quality results equals fans.
And when clients come to you, what in their minds is easier than they thought when they get started with you, and what's harder than you when you engage them, like something they didn't really see was coming?
Yeah, the message is usually the big one, right? Because again, we forget where we were when we were in that state of pain. Once we, ascend to a higher level of awareness. And if we start marketing from that higher level of awareness, then we start using words and messaging that the client won't understand. We try and make it cute, right? We want clarity over cutesiness. And clarity, again, is what gets people into your space and allows them to understand that you get them. So, if someone's thirsty, they want a glass of water. That's it. If someone's thirsty, they want a glass of water, and express to them that you have water by saying, hey, if you're thirsty, come to me. I have water that will help quench your thirst. Instead, we try and get all cute, and we try and say things like, hey, come hang out with me so that you can take the ride that'll help you overcome your hydration situation. What does that all mean? Right. And once we start simplifying that message and getting very clear with it, that's when it starts to land with people.
Well, I think that ultimately the single greatest thing, and this is like transition into newer leveled up version of Austin. When I first started, all my content was I, this. This is me. This is what I did. And the moment that I took the I out and I made it we or you, this is how you feel, man, the content just flipped around and people really took it as their own, right? Mm-hmm. And it when I write something from that point of view, there 7 people shouldn't say, oh, this message is just for me, but that's what you're doing. And so, yeah, it might be written in a context of me looking in a third person, but ultimately they're wearing it as their own. And it's so much more powerful that way than look at Austin do this.
Yeah. Which also, transitions into how to create or how to pick the niche for your business. The more narrow you become in that niche, then the more people are going to think, oh, this thing is for me because they are talking directly to me. Like they know me, right? It's like, selling a weight loss course that just is for weight loss, then niching down to, weight loss for women, then niching down to weight loss for women that are about to get married in 3 weeks and want to fit into their wedding dress. Oh, that's me. This must be for me. And by the way, the smaller you get, the more you can charge because now it's more targeted. You become more of a specialist in that area.
So when COVID hit and you were coaching already, before this happened, did you ever see this for yourself? Is this something that just came on quick and then you realized that you had a knack for it? Is it something that you always had in the back of your mind? I always wonder, I know some businesses are built out of just, but I'm just curious if 6 months in and clients will start getting success, you're like, oh shit, I got something here.
No, I failed forward a lot with my own programs. And that's really where FreedomBuilderz came from. It was like, okay, cool. Let me go back and remember my journey. Let me remember all the times where I bumped my head up against a wall, and let me create a solution for that. Business is simple. Go ask people what's creating pain in their life. Go ask people where their challenges are, and then create a solution for that specific challenge that they're facing. And then go back and tell them, hey, that thing that was keeping you up at night because it was so painful. Well, I've got the solution for it. Do you want it? What are they going to say? Right? Of course they're going to say it. Yes. And of course, the amount you can charge is proportional to the amount of pain that you're helping someone overcome. So if someone is diagnosed with 3 days to live and you come to them with a pill that says, hey, I can make that all go away and you can live the rest of your life, you can charge whatever you want for that. Right. And of course, the opposite is also true, right? When it comes to evaluating your course. But yeah, man, I bumped up against a lot of challenges building my own online courses. And I also wore a lot of hats and dabbled into a lot of stuff that wasn't in my zone of genius, which of course caused overwhelm and frustration. I remember one time, and I've told this story a couple times, where it took me 80 hours to build out a landing page, a single page landing page, because it was not my zone of genius. And, I wanted to make it perfect. I wanted to put the right pictures in there. I was trying to figure out how to structure everything, what to say. And it was 80 hours that it took to build this thing out. And it wasn't the time that it took to build the landing page. It was what was happening during the time it took me to build the landing page. And during that time, my wife would come up to me and say, "Hey, do you want to go have a date night? Hey, do you want to go out?" Or my son would come up to me, "Hey, do you want to throw a Frisbee? Do you want to throw a football? Do you want to, play outside with me?" Or friends would be calling me up, or family would be calling me up to come connect and hang out with them. And I would have to say no, because I'm in this freaking landing page mess for, the entire day. And it was after that situation that I decided that anything that isn't in my zone of genius is going to be delegated from now on. And I started building a team to first build out my own online courses. And then that team expanded more and more and more and more. And now, obviously, we build out online courses for educators, creators, and, coaches in a bunch of different spaces.
Well, one of the things that I ran up against is when I built a team and I found out what delegation was. Like, I delegated everything, just went wild with delegation. And, that hasn't been great for me. I fired a course creator. We fired an ads guy. Like, I'm not saying that you have to do everything yourself, but you have to know enough about what you're doing so if they're doing the job they should be doing. And one of the things that Chase and Conrad and I have run up into is nobody cares as much as we do. And so, not by wanting to, but we're kind of bringing a lot of stuff in house to vertically integrate things because people just don't move as quick as we do. And when you find that person that does, or you find that teammate or employee that really cares, look, I didn't ask her to, okay, but we're launching something and I need a video edited, and my marketing director did it last night at 11 o'clock. Now, here's the deal. I'm not happy with her, because we don't promote that, but she's like, a team gets it done. And so I'm like, oh, we got the person we need right there,
Yeah.
And so when you're growing your team, are you looking for skills? Are you looking for values? Where do you land? Is it a mixture of both when you're building out a team?
Yeah. I mean, skills and values. I'd rather have someone that has solid values and is in alignment with the mission and shows up when we need them to show up. And then has a certain skill set, right? But I'd rather have someone that has those values versus the skill set where I can train that. Mm-hmm. So that's what I look for when I'm building a team. And then also culture fit. Are they all a good fit with each other, right? Which is also really huge when it comes to building a team. And we've got, I think, 26 people on the team now. So, okay. It's a decent sized team.
And I know, because Chase told me that y'all don't run any ads. Mm-hmm. And so talk to me about that strategy, because, if you listen to Instagram or Facebook for 2 seconds, everybody tells you have to run ads. So, walk me through this strategy for coaches and business owners, how you can gain this kind of traction without having to spend money on ads.
Yeah. Ads is predictable income, but you can create consistent income organically as long as you're building authority in your space, right? For me, again, it's about messaging and it's about building authority in a particular niche, right? And when you become the authority in that niche, then people they come to you. I believe that an online business can make between $150,000 and $200,000 before they have to touch ads.
Okay.
And I've seen that over and over again. And you can rinse and repeat a launch process organically as long as you are continuing to show up and always be, nurturing new leads in your audience, and build that organically, and then launch every 3 to 4 months a new class. And then you can keep doing that until eventually, you're going to outpace that. And then that's when you start injecting ads into the business model.
And along that system, you've helped a lot of people. Where do you think the most broken spot in the system that you see the most, the same trends over and over again? Is it follow-up? Is it marketing, messaging? Where's the broken thing that people aren't paying attention to?
Not sticking to a niche. I think a lot of coaches, they try a niche for a couple months and then, they don't think it works. And then they try another one and then they don't think that one works. And then they just keep going over that time and time again. And what they're not realizing is that they have to start over every time. And I think the mentality is that the market is going to fix the problem, and it's not a market problem. It's a time issue, right? Because how do we create change? Time plus reps equals change. So you have to stick with something, put the reps in over and over again, and always be course correcting along the way. And it's inevitable that you will be successful.
Mm-hmm. And I also think that people, you know, they haven't spent enough time with themselves to understand what it is because like people can feel like everything. Like if you know that thing, like I have my coach that got me through my divorce and my addiction and everything. He said, "Look, dude, you're really stressing about like where you're going to find clients." And he's like, "You never have to worry about that." I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?" And he said, "You only coach what you've been through."
Mm-hmm.
And so like when I see it, I'm like, oh yeah, victimhood, got that. Divorced, been there. And it's like so easy when you identify it and you're like, oh, I got you. I got the medicine for exactly what you need. And then boom. Now where I've had a little bit of an issue, and this has been a tweaking in my process, is giving them too much information too soon. Not everybody's me. And so you kind of have to work up to it. And that's where I think, you know, having a course and allowing them to work through it at their own time and have their own epiphanies sometimes can be almost more of a benefit. And then they go into coaching. I think is kind of like you're like not conditioning them, but opening up some new areas in their mind that maybe they didn't have before that they need to kind of process in their own thing. When I switched from being a coach to a guide, my business really shifted and I gained a lot more success with my clients.
Yeah, you get to meet people where they're at. And that's what people are coming into your space for. They're coming into your space because you're further down the road than they are. And you get to come back and guide them down that journey, right? You get to turn around and say, hey, I found something really cool up here. You can come check it out. And then you turn around and you go grab them by the hand. You say, come on, let's go, right? So that they're able to stay on the path without any kind of deviation that may cause, some sort of big financial, trouble that they get into or whatnot, right? You keep them on that path. And that is what I believe what coaching is, right? Is you being a guide because you're further down the road.
Yeah. I mean, I realized something, it kind of hit me like 6 months ago. Is like, especially in real estate, like I'm not teaching you anything that's not already out there. What I'm teaching you to do is be comfortable with your emotions. Like in that moment, that step to your first big real estate deal feels like the Grand Canyon. It's not that you don't have enough knowledge, is that you don't know the emotions associated with walking through that whole deal, raising the money, seeing the thing. And so just saying like, oh, that's normal. Like just that, like, hey, that's normal to feel that way, instead of like being alone in your space and saying, I don't know. And this feels like nothing I've ever felt before. Like you can tell when you're like, oh, okay, like you're just a little uncomfortable right now. But like, if you just like get to the other side of this, right? And I'm sure it's the same way when you first start your first podcast, when you launch your first course, like, you know, everybody's like, oh, launch it. And like other people are just going to come flocking. And you're like, crickets, like, you know, and that was me. Like, I paid a guy a lot of money and he was good at the course part and terrible at the marketing part. And I still never sold one of those courses, and I just put it to bed finally. And what I realized is that I didn't know who that course was for.
Yeah.
And so when you build a course and you don't have an end user in mind, then you're not really building anything.
That's the journey of building a course. Start with the result. And how are you going to get that client the result that they're coming into your space to get? And then you deconstruct from there. And that's the path. That's the sequence, how you organize your course. And then you take them through the experience. You take them through the journey of getting that result. And you do everything that you can to make sure that client gets the result, period. That's it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then, those are the makings of a really successful process and a successful course.
When you build out and you vision out your company and you've helped many entrepreneurs and coaches, like, where do you see this business in 5 years, 3 years?
FreedomBuilderz?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I see it transitioning into more corporate, like instructional design.
Okay.
I imagine that, the world is going to transition into more remote learning before it gets into obviously VR, augmented reality, but we don't have to go down that rabbit hole. But But yeah, I think it's going to get into more remote learning because it's going to save
me an idea.
It's going to
Well, you just gave me an idea because no, this is great. Like, this is amazing. Like, you literally just lit something on fire to me. I'm like, I can't wait to get with Mike and do this. So I believe, so I read a book called The Secret of Sand Hills. It's one of the most successful private equity firms in all of the country. And they did a study that they said, regardless of the product or the sector of business that they were in, if they supported their CEOs with the right coaching and the right support, that they were successful 65% of the time. And so what we did is we created a basic curriculum and framework for all of our CEOs in our business. We have 7 of them, and we're training them through EOS, through Dan Sullivan's teachings, through, other guys, and we have like our own take on things. And so if we were to automate that and we were to create it, then we wouldn't have to be teaching it all the time. And it's just something that we could then take, which I know we're going to be asked to, and then consult for other companies through an automated version.
Of course. That is where the future is going. It's going into more of an online curriculum where if you are spread out throughout the country or throughout the world, now you can distribute this online curriculum to each, location that you're in, and everyone is on board with the same processes. Like, everyone's answering the phone the same. Everyone's going through the same training process. Everyone knows the mission and the values of the company, and it's all the same. And it's as easy as pressing a button and giving everyone access to that curriculum, and also creating it in a way that's not boring, like creating it in a way that is engaging with the viewer, which is what we do through our slide design and what we do through our videography and what we do through our branding. It's not this like boring, remember, like, I don't know if you remember, like, the trainings that you sat down in a room and they wheeled this TV in from the 90s.
I have 20 years in the hotel and restaurant business. I've sat through 75 of them. Yeah.
Me too, by the way, 20 years hotel restaurant. But yeah, so you get it, right? So imagine if there was a way where, you could interact with those trainings in the comfort of your own home, or you can interact with those trainings through an app or
have you studied a company like Trainler? Have you studied them? Do you know about them? Have you heard of them?
No.
So this guy basically started an online platform to teach teams their training in a consumable, easy to ingest form. It's Trainler. He's grown it huge. He actually wrote a book about it. And so I think that's kind of somewhat what you're talking about. And what I'm saying is, like, this is what I tell my clients, like, especially all the CEOs we coach and we consult for. You're spending way too much time on level 2 and 3 meetings. Can you walk every day into an 8 or a 9 or a 10 level meeting? And by automating your training, right? So we started a podcast about the company and the journey that we're doing. And what that is basically documentation for anybody that comes in, listen to these 20 podcasts, and you know exactly who we are and what we stand for. Mm-hmm. And so before you join us on this journey, you need to know what you're getting yourself into. And that's a way that I don't have to say that story over and over.
You got it, man.
And over again. That's the way of the future.
Yeah, anything that you say over and over again can be put into some sort of video that you can distribute multiple times. And now you can reserve your time and energy for higher level conversations, right? Where now you can interact with people in a different way that are already prepped, foundationally on what you want to talk about, instead of taking days to get them prepped, right, on the foundational stuff. So I believe that more companies are going to implement that into their business model, in the upcoming years. And then eventually, like I said, we'll get into some sort of, augmented situation. But before that, that's where I see FreedomBuilderz in the next 5 years, where we're helping corporations create those systems so they can reach more people. We're already doing it now with a couple companies, but I think it's going to get bigger.
I love it. So if people want to find out more about the company, they want to engage y'all, how would they do that?
With FreedomBuilderz, the best way to engage with us is the website, freedombuilderz.com. Builders is with a Z. And then obviously you can find me on social media, Mike G Coaching on Instagram.
I love it. Guys, if you got some value from this episode, send it to a friend, and we'll see you next one.
Thank you for listening to Construct Your Life with Austin Linney. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and pay it forward by sharing with a friend. Most importantly, take this opportunity to start constructing your life by taking immediate action on what you learned. For show notes, resources, and more information on one-on-one coaching with Austin, visit constructyourlifepodcast.com.